Welcome to the Southern Poverty Law Center Media Guide. This video series was designed to illustrate the simple fact checks the media should perform on SPLC claims, but won't. Today's lesson: No Minorities at the Top. Visit the SPLC's homepage at www.splcenter.org and click on the Who We Are link at the top of the page. According to the website, the SPLC is a non-profit civil rights organization dedicated to fighting hate and bigotry. They also note that they are based in Montgomery, Alabama, the birthplace of the modern civil rights movement. Under the section marked A Rich History, SPLC founder Morris Dees claims that the SPLC was founded to ensure that the promises of the civil rights movement became a reality for all. In 1994, two reporters for the Montgomery Advertiser, the SPLC's hometown newspaper, began a week-long investigation of the center. One of the first things Dan Morse and Greg Jaffe noticed was a distinct lack of diversity in the SPLC's top management positions. In an article titled "Equal Treatment, No Blacks in the Center's Leadership," Dan Morse writes, "Outside the SPLC, a stunning civil rights memorial honors those who died to give blacks more opportunities. Inside, no blacks have held top management positions in the center's 23-year history." Let's fast forward 15 years to 2009. Here are the SPLC's top executives as identified by the center's IRS Form 990, found under the Who We Are section of the homepage. And here is the executive team from 2010 and 2011. Do you notice any patterns? Ironically, despite being located literally in the backyard of Dr. Martin Luther King's own Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, which, as Mr. Dees points out, is the birthplace of the American Civil Rights Movement, the SPLC has never hired a person of color to a highly paid position of authority in its entire 41-year history. Not exactly what you'd expect from a non-profit civil rights organization dedicated to fighting hate and bigotry, yet you won't hear about it through the media, and you certainly won't read about it in the SPLC's fundraising literature. In the past, when we've pointed out this glaring hypocrisy in public, invariably somebody will say, "Oh yeah? What about Julian Bond?" True enough, Julian Bond, an African-American and a genuine civil rights icon, was indeed the SPLC's first president. But a closer look once again shows that things weren't quite the way they appear in the SPLC press releases. On page 132 of his 1991 autobiography, A Season for Justice, Morris Dees writes about preparing to send out his very first fundraising letters for the center in 1971. Before we could ask for money, we had to establish credibility. We needed a prominent figure whose presence would announce the center's values and promise. Julian Bond seemed the perfect choice. Dees continues that although he had never met Julian Bond, a mutual friend brought the two men together for a meeting, where Dees told him of our hopes and plans, and Bond agreed to serve as president of the Law Center, a largely honorary position. So how much of a role did the honorary president actually play in shaping the course of the famous Law Center? In 1971, Bond was working on a bachelor's degree in English and had no legal or law enforcement background. Bond also lived in Atlanta, a 3-hour drive from Montgomery, long before the advent of the internet. And the two paragraphs you've just seen comprise the only mention of Julian Bond in Morris Dees' entire 360-page book. In short, Julian Bond provided little more than a classic celebrity endorsement for the SPLC. Morris Dees needed a name to put at the bottom of his fundraising letters. And while no mention is made of money changing hands, it seems unlikely that Julian Bond would lend his reputation to two white lawyers from Montgomery that nobody had ever heard of before for nothing. Julian Bond had about as much to do with running the SPLC as Michael Jordan has with designing Hanes underwear. Another challenge people make when confronted with the reality of an all-white leadership at the SPLC is to point to the center's diverse board of directors. Here we see the members of the 2011 board, as found on the same Who We Are link on the website, and one could hardly wish for a more diverse group. Back in 1994, in another article for his week-long expose, Dan Morse took a closer look at the center's board of directors and found that it consisted of Morris Dees' good friends, present and past co-workers, Mr. Dees' own divorce lawyer, his personal physician, and even the great man himself. In short, the board of directors, who receive no compensation, are friends and cronies of Morris Dees, who do little more than rubber stamp whatever Dees puts before them. In fact, some of today's members were on the board when Dan Morse wrote about it in 1994. Simply put, the Southern Poverty Law Center, that great civil rights organization, has been run by whites only ever since the doors opened in 1971. Again, this is not rocket science, folks. Granted, while all of the current personnel data is available right from the SPLC's website, this one takes a little more effort if you opt to ask your local library for a copy of Dees' book and the Dan Morse articles via interlibrary loan. But in essence, there's nothing here that couldn't be uncovered by a first-year journalism student or even an intern. It's a story the media has ignored since 1994. If you would like more information, including the numbers and dates your local librarian would need to order the Dan Morse articles, you can reach us through the Watching the Watchdogs blog address seen here. Thank you.